Season 2, Episode 1. There's not much that needs to be said. I think I'm going to take from the great Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson here and say, finally, the SPMA Council podcast has come back to the airwaves. How's it going, everybody? Hope everyone's having a great day. I invite you to pull up a chair, sit back, and relax. And welcome to, like I said, Season 2, Episode 1 of the SPMA Council podcast. I'm your host, William Ward. As always, after a long hiatus, we're back. We're back with some amazing content coming your way, especially with this first episode. And you know, in general, I just hope everyone is doing okay mentally right now. You know, this pandemic has been a tough time for everyone, especially students. There's still a lot up in the air with regards to the academic year. So I hope that, you know, you're feeling okay, you're feeling positive, and I hope that this podcast can be an outlet for you listeners. Whether you've listened in season 1 or whether you're just coming onto this podcast and encountered it for the first time, I hope this serves as a positive outlet for you to learn and for you to de-stress a little. So, listeners new and old, I welcome you all to the show. And as you can see, or if you're watching on our YouTube channel, we got some new members of the team. It's kind of a big deal, so I will introduce those guys to you right now. On my left, and it's on my left because it's recording that way. If it's not and it doesn't turn that way with the finished product, then I apologize. But on my left, from Toronto, Ontario, our podcast administrator for the year and the current host of the IGTV Student Athlete Series. Not a big deal. Please welcome Bill. What's good?
How's it going, Will?
Going good? Good.
That was an amazing intro. Like Dwayne "Rock" Johnson, like you got everything there. So yeah, thanks for that intro. You know, I'm Neville Medell. Just a little bit about me. I just finished first year at Brock. You know, just trying to get involved as much as I can right now. And for everyone listening, you got a really great episode coming up. And, you know, can't wait it's an amazing episode. You guys should be very excited for it. And, you know, to hear lots of a very different experience, you know, on the other side of the world. And yeah, that's just about it.
For sure. You sort of led into where our guest is from, and we'll touch on that later. But the next and final member of our team, running our social media channels for this year. You haven't seen this guy, but you've probably seen his electric season 2 posts with the help of former Raptor Kawhi Leonard. From Guelph, Ontario, please welcome to the team, Evan Pike.
Yeah, thanks, Will. Really happy to be here, guys. Definitely, you know, super tired because I worked 12 hours today, but hopefully that's not going to impact anything here. Apologies if I seem tired or look tired, but that's my excuse. I think that's fairly valid, and you know,
you're
I'm just
putting
super
in work,
excited.
Evan. We all know about that.
Yeah. I'm very excited about this episode, and I hope whoever's listening is also very excited because it's a great episode.
Couldn't have said better myself. And you know, before we go to the actual guests, you know, I want to touch on the theme that we're going to try and hammer home throughout this podcast, and that is getting out of your comfort zone. It means a lot of different things to people. I think, you know, I interpret it as, you know, doing things that you're uncomfortable with, taking risks, trying things that, you know, you may haven't thought of, or, you know, thinking outside the box. Again, it can be interpreted in many different ways, but what I hope that this theme centered around season 2 will bring is a great variety of not only insightful guests, but great content as well, and just good stories, because really that's what the essence of the SPMA Council podcast is about, to tell great stories through our guests while enlightening our listeners as well. So, boy, I'm just curious, what does getting out of your comfort zone mean to you?
So at least for me, I think, at least for, as sport managers, all these people listening, I think there are a lot of different career pathways you can take as a sport manager. There's lots of stuff you can do that you won't even think about. So I think getting out of your comfort zone, the theme is kind of, introducing those things that you don't always think about throughout the podcast, and, potentially following one of these career pathways that a lot of these guests have for this season.
Very nice. Evan, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a great theme. I think getting out of your comfort zone, regardless of whether it's your, professional life, your personal life, it just helps you grow as a person. And I think, that's the goal every day, right? To get a little bit better every day. And I think this theme is going to tie in nicely with a lot of our guests throughout the season, and super excited.
Likewise, man, likewise, like, getting out of your comfort zone, like our guest personifies that. And, it's also getting out of our comfort zone for us. So our first guest, this is the first time we've actually explored guest options from outside Canada and the United States. We're taking a trip over the Atlantic Ocean, virtually, of course, to meet Sean Mitchell, who is the treasurer of Baseball Ireland and also the president of the Ashbourne Giants Baseball Club, one of Ireland's largest amateur baseball organizations. And it's an absolute fantastic story. He was actually one of the original members of the Irish national team, and the game started with literally 20 people, some spare equipment, and a park. Not an actual baseball field, because there was none at the time, a park, but it's a story of, determination and resilience that's got them to 25 years of baseball, including this year. They're running strong with their little league and men's league teams, which serve as a direct feeder to the national team. And they've even started to open up successfully, even as the world grapples with this pandemic. So, I'm curious to see, boys, what you thought about the episode, and what you thought of Sean as a person.
Well, I mean, Sean, obviously a very experienced individual. He seems like, he's cut himself out an incredible career over in Ireland. And, I don't want to give away too much, but, there are some really cool stats that he's got. They're trying to build, they're trying to grow, Baseball Ireland 26% a year, which kind of stuck out to me. I don't want to go over too much, but, Evan, you can chime in if you'd like.
Yeah, I just admire, his perseverance and his determination to grow, a game that is so popular in many other parts of the world, but seemingly hasn't really had any sort of relevance.
Yeah,
we're gonna edit that. We're gonna edit that. Tired brain, boys. Relevance, yeah, in Ireland. And I think that's just, for me, was one of the biggest things. Really cool how he's really grown it from nothing.
Again, it's a story of determination, resilience, and commitment, which really encapsulates the Irish spirit down in that country. We're going to leave a couple link in the description to a documentary done by this independent filmmaker. I explain what it is in the interview, but basically they profile the Irish baseball national team through its early days. And Sean, I think, was actually a catcher in for the national team in its early days, and it just shows how they've grown, how they've continued to expand with a critical eye, and it's things that we may not think is a big deal here, but over there, such as opening a new field that's to our national standards, it's huge for the growth of the game. And Sean does speak on it and the impact that has on Irish baseball. And trust me, when you listen to it, it's going to be amazing. I mean, I think we covered pretty much everything before we transition into the interview with Sean. So, fellas, any final thoughts before we head off into this interview?
No, I think you covered it well. Thanks again to Sean for coming on, and hope you guys enjoy the interview.
That'll be Evan.
Yeah, thanks to Sean for coming on and being our first interview of season 2. Maybe prepare yourselves for some professional Irish League players in a few years. Fingers crossed for Sean and everybody over there in Ireland. But yeah, that'll
be well. With that, we thank you for starting our journey with us on season 2. If you want to watch more episodes, be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Give us a follow on Spotify. Subscribe to us on Google Podcasts. We're pretty much everywhere where you get your podcast fix. So if you want some further content, look no further to there to check out season 1. But without further ado, let's send it over to Sean Mitchell of Baseball Ireland. All right, like I said in the introduction, welcome to our season premiere of season 2 of the SPMA Council podcast. And we've got a great guest on today for a variety of reasons. The first being that he is the first guest we've had outside Canada and the United States. So we're going intercontinental, so to speak. And like I said, we got a great one for you today. He's been a former catcher of the Irish national team, former manager of the Irish national team, and he's the current treasurer of Irish baseball. Please welcome Sean Mitchell to the podcast. How's it going?
Great to be here.
So for the first question I have for you, and this will be a regular feature going forward on the podcast. What makes your past experiences or story unique?
Yeah, so I mean we've set up baseball in Ireland about 25 years ago now at this stage, and where it didn't exist at all, and there's obviously no real history of baseball in Ireland. But personally, what I find interesting about it is that there's the Irish have had a very rich history in baseball over the years, and in particular, 100, 150 years ago. I mean, since the mid 1800s, of course, Irish people have been emigrating to North America by the droves since the Great Famine in the mid 1800s. And if you look at the state of play of baseball around the turn of the century in North America, around 1900, about 40% of players, managers were first generation Irish, and they showed a great aptitude for the game. Coming off the boat from Ireland, weren't that many options for them. They could go work construction or whatever, and baseball actually was a great opportunity for them, and a lot of them ended up playing professional baseball and really had a huge influence on the game in those early years. And there we are 100 years later, trying to bring it back home. So it's kind of I find that an interesting twist to the story.
For sure. I mean, obviously, you mentioned Irish baseball's been going for past 25 years, and from what I've seen on the club's social media feeds, the game seems to be quite healthy over there with league teams, little league, or even through maybe some little fun summer camps that you guys run. But Irish baseball has quite the interesting start, so to speak. And I recommend this documentary called The Emerald Diamonds, done by a guy named John Fitzgerald. I don't know when it was made, but I'll throw the link in the description down below if you guys want to take a watch. And it shows the roots of baseball in Ireland were very blue collar. You guys had to have had to put in a lot of work just to get some exposure to the country. So how did Irish baseball actually start? What was the thought process of getting a sport up and running that had limited exposure in a country where usually sports like rugby, football, and Gaelic sports are king?
Yeah, exactly. And those are really our big four, the Gaelic football, hurling, rugby, soccer. So, baseball, while growing, is still way down that list. But there was a group of us who were passionate about baseball, and there had been a softball league running as kind of a slow pitch co-ed softball league, and some people had gotten involved in that, and of course after playing that for a couple of years, some people were taking it maybe a bit more competitively than it's designed for, and we just decided that maybe we should be playing hardball instead. So we thought we'd give it a go, and we just literally set it up with, it was maybe a total of about 20 to 30 players that we managed to attract to try and get it set up. We got our hands on a bit of equipment, and obviously there's no dedicated baseball facilities at all in Ireland at that stage. So, just tried to find a bit of a park or a soccer pitch that we could throw a few bases down on and just start playing. And then it kind of grew from there. We took, I think, a fairly bold step, having really just set up the federation officially. Decided that we would try to put a team together for a European Championships tournament. So actually an Irish national team, literally less than a year after we had set up the federation, and most of the people had never even played a competitive game, never mind playing international competition. so it was but we're maybe a bit naive because we didn't even realize the standard of European baseball, which is actually quite high. Now it's been improving a lot over the years. At the time, it was still a bit of a shock to us to go to the European Championships and face teams that were pretty competent baseball teams. I remember my first at bat, we were playing against the Czech Republic, and they had this lefty pitching and throws about 85, over the inside of the plate. I mean, I had never seen a ball move that fast. So it was, it was a bit of an awakening, but it was great. We had so much fun, and the group of people involved were just so passionate about the game that, once we'd had that experience, well, that was it. This was going to be a lifelong vocation.
I find the formation of like just how you guys just started with absolutely nothing. Like you literally just took over parks and used what you could. Like that's the epitome of getting out of your comfort zone. And for audience back home, this is one of the themes we're going to try and hammer home over the next few episodes. And when you talk about getting out of your comfort zone, I mean, imagine your favorite sports such as hockey, basketball, baseball back in Canada and the U.S. And imagine you have absolutely no facilities with a small group of people, 20 to 25, willing willing to go along with it. That takes determination. That takes the willingness to commit to your cause, and it takes a lot of passion too. So in that respect, you should be commended for that. And it's something that is it's a skill that almost people, yeah, it's almost required of people now. But sometimes it gets overlooked. Like when you have a real passion, like real dedication and passion for something that you love and you want to succeed, there's no limit for what that's can do for you. And I know you spoke about a couple of the hurdles that you had to overcome in those early years, especially in your first European Championships. But what were some of the other hurdles that baseball had to overcome in Ireland, whether it was from a skill-based standpoint, a registration-based standpoint? And can you speak on the concept of determination and resilience that's clearly got Irish baseball to its 25th year in running?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some challenges we face here. An obvious one is the weather. Irish weather, I'm sure, be well known around the world. But I mean, you do what you can there, right? I mean, you just have to deal with it. When we did end up developing some facilities. We did look for materials that would have good drainage and things like that, so that if it does rain heavily, half an hour later we're good to be back out there playing. So, but there are a lot of other more systemic challenges, I guess. Obviously, competing with I mentioned the big four sports, and there are others. Just trying to attract athletes to the game. Anyone who's a good and talented athlete is likely already playing at least one or two of those more established sports. So just to be able to compete with them and to get their attention is always a challenge. And that's why it's important to try to attract kids at an early stage and get them to develop a love for the game. But to the resilience point, and that takes work. I mean, that's a slog. That's going out every single week, working with the kids and really trying to develop that love of the game with them. We've had, I think, a lot of good feedback from parents and so on about the kind of culture that we've been able to build there, as compared to their experience with other sports. So that's always satisfying to hear, and I think it's something that is a strength for us. Another challenge actually is that there's no other Irish sport really that involves throwing.
Oh, interesting.
You think about like rugby, Gaelic football, soccer, etc. It's all kicking, and I mean hurling is the one that is kind of closest in terms of skills. And I know a lot of people in your listenership probably aren't even familiar with hurling, but it does use kind of sticks. It's kind of a mixture between kind of field hockey and lacrosse, maybe. It does use sticks and a ball the size of a baseball. You do hit it and you do catch it, but you still don't throw it. So teaching people how to throw is one of the biggest challenges. And obviously there again, you have to get people when they're young if you really want to develop their throwing ability. Once you try to bring in an 18 or 20-year-old who's hasn't thrown much before, they're starting from a long way back.
That's really interesting. I mean, especially when you connect it back to the big four, and realize, okay, well, we got to teach these kids how to throw, which is the basic, literal fundamental standpoint of baseball. And I played baseball for past 10, 11 years. And, it's unfortunately when you're young or when you're picking up the game for the first time, it's unfortunately a sport of failure. It's not like football or rugby where, you get some reward if you A, pass the ball, B, run with it and gain yards, maybe score a try. If you throw the ball and you miss your target, that could cost your team an extra base. If you even botch a ground ball, that could lead to more runs. So the point of just getting those basic skills across. I mean, it's something that's probably overlooked here because there's in Canada because there's so many people involved. But here, like teaching those skills in Ireland, just teaching those skills properly must mean the difference between, okay, is this kid going to be in the loop for the next 5 years, or is he going to drop out after this season? So I imagine it is a heck of a tough balance.
Yeah, and you make a very good point about the failure aspect. It is something that is quite unique to baseball, I think, and that's why some people call it the game of life. You have to be able to face that kind of adversity, and you're not going to succeed all the time. It's actually quite hard. And it's funny, you see that dynamic in a lot of kids come and try to play the game, and they may expect to get instant success, and it doesn't happen that way, right? And it's interesting to see the way different kids deal with that, and to try to bring them along and teach them that this is hard, and you have to keep trying at it. You're not going to succeed straight away, right? And you need to learn something about yourself in how you deal with that. And how you take that forward to improve. And I think it's something that's quite unique about baseball.
You're bang on with that point there. But I mean, in all sports, there's going to be moments of success, even when the going gets tough. Toronto Maple Leaf fans, including myself, I know we've had a couple of tough Game 7 losses in the playoffs, but. Hang in there because that point's really relatable. But back to what we're talking about. In 2015 was a monumental year for Baseball Ireland. You opened the International Baseball Center in Ashford, and over the past few years, it's hosted a bunch of events such as the International Baseball Festival, or the IBC, and the 2018 European Baseball Qualifying Tournament. It's also the first field in Ireland to be built to international standards. Can you speak to what the impact has been in baseball? And, you probably have firsthand experience, especially since you have been involved with the Ashbourne Giants organization for a bit.
Yeah, no, I think the impact has been pretty profound on Irish baseball. I mean, you mentioned some of the high-profile events we've held there. We've had we've had international tournaments every year since we opened, including European Championships. We've had I think 16 different international teams from different countries who have visited Ireland to play there. This year, unfortunately, is the first time we've had to cancel due to the COVID situation. We'll be back in business again next year, hopefully. But in addition to that, we've been able to have a training facility for the national team. We've been able to host lots of kind of youth events there with really a fantastic atmosphere. It's the first field in Ireland where we have a fully enclosed private facility. We've got plenty of seating, we've got music, we've got selling the hot dogs, we've got the bullpens, the batting cages, scoreboard, etc. So our goal was really trying to capture that festival kind of atmosphere, and I think we've succeeded in doing that. And many of the events, there's just been a fantastic atmosphere there. The European Championships, there wasn't a there wasn't a seat free. There was over 1,000 people, you know, in to watch the Irish team play, and these are, you know, local people who often know absolutely nothing about baseball, but they got caught up in the whole atmosphere of the tournament. And thankfully Ireland managed to win the gold medal in that tournament, so that certainly helped.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, seeing that field, like I've seen a couple pictures of it online, and you know, the field looks to be, you know, in tip top shape. Sort of makes you want to pinch yourself, considering considering that, you know, 20 or so years ago, all you had was a park and 20 people to keep the game of baseball going, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we've been, I think, you know, quite fortunate. It's a lovely site there. It takes a lot of work, obviously, and we're still just kind of learning really how to do it and how to keep it maintained into good standards. So anytime we, you know, visit anywhere in North America or any good fields in Europe, you know, we're always trying to pick everyone's brains on how to maintain it. And we were fortunate to get, you know, this like we started the project at the end of 2011, early 2012, to try and get the field open, and we had to pursue, you know, various fundraising avenues, and we're fortunate to get a grant program that funded the majority of the initial construction costs. So we were able to get it off the ground. But, you know, a very dedicated small group of people who really put in a huge effort to get the project going.
That's great. That's great to see. That was the first time I've actually heard about this 4 or 5 year journey to get the field ready, from construction to lobbying for grants to fundraising. Again, like passion and resilience, which has become pretty much the constant theme throughout this show. We've touched on it a couple times, but it seems that Irish baseball's biggest you know, goal and challenge at the same time is obviously growing the game, whether it's kids who want to enroll in Little League, or it's young adults that want to pick up a baseball bat and a ball glove from the same time and get enrolled in a league. So, what strategies has Irish baseball taken to accomplish that goal, while separate themselves from the rest of the Irish Big Four, if you will?
Yeah, it's been a journey. You know, we've gone through a number of different phases of development. Once we established Baseball Ireland initially, you know, there was obviously a bit of a spurt of enthusiasm, and things grew gradually over a period of a number of years, attracted new people to playing, eventually started to get some youth stuff going, but things plateaued for quite a number of years, and a few years ago, you know, we really had to take a bit of a step back and say, okay, you know, how are we going to proactively put in place a strategy here that's really going to drive the game? And I mean, we came up with, I suppose, three main pillars there. One is growing the participation, particularly at youth levels, and then coaching and facilities. And the primary one really is the participation side, because, you know, even now today, we only have 500 players in the whole country, right? So, you know, it's still very, very small. Yes, it's grown from the 20 we had, you know, 25 years ago, but it's still only 500, right? So,
Right.
And, you know, if you take any group of 50 kids, right, and, you know, to produce, you know, even 2 elite level athletes out of those 50 who can, you know, compete at international stage, you know, you're doing well. So in the end, it's a numbers game. So that base of the pyramid has to be much wider than it is today. So we basically set the goal to say that, okay, over the next 10 years, we're going to grow the youth participation levels tenfold. So we call that our 10 by 10 plan. And that is a compounded annual growth of 26%, right? Every year we need to grow by 26% the youth membership. And so far, 3 years in, we've succeeded in hitting those numbers each year. This year is obviously going to be pretty challenging, but we're certainly not giving up on the target. And so that youth growth is absolutely key to that strategy. And then the coaching and the facilities, and we just this year hired our first full-time employee of Baseball Ireland, who's a development coach on the ground now on a two-year contract. So that's a big step for us. We're also looking at establishing an indoor facility, again for the first time, so that we have somewhere in the off season for folks to train. It's not like Southern California here, in the winter by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's pitch dark outside. So
yeah, for sure.
You really need to have something indoors where people can continue to train, because we're, in that way we can get an academy system going where we're getting those elite players that we're identifying at a young age, and we can give them a program that they can work through, and they can do it all year round. And really develop towards ultimately towards playing for the national team.
That's quite the comprehensive strategy, and I have no doubt it'll be effective if you guys keep putting in the same resilience, same determination that you have been for the past 25 years. But I liked when you the pyramid analogy, sort of like building blocks and growing every year, and and that's a point I want to hammer home to our audience, which is mainly post-secondary students wanting to work in sport. Like it sounds basic, but setting clear, concrete goals is so freaking important. Like when you set those goals and say, okay, we're gonna do this. Our timeline is this. We want our numbers to be this. Here's the strategies. I mean, the audience back at home, you've just seen a really effective strategy presented to you in the last couple minutes of how to grow the game. And I'm coming under the assumption that it's going to be tough, but you've laid out a very clear roadmap for how to get there. And again, just like life too. It doesn't matter if you don't know what you want to do for your career, maybe like a couple years down the road. But if you have goals, no matter how big or small they are, that are concrete, manageable, and you have the passion and determination to do it, then again, there's no limit, absolutely no limit to what you can do. And I fully expect those that number of 500 players to increase over the next couple of years. The final question before we sort of wrap up the show here. Just a quick, simple one. What are some of the moments that make you feel proud about the state of Irish baseball in 2020?
Well, I think there's probably two themes there. I mean, one is even last week, even given the current COVID conditions, we're just back playing, but we had a great day with out at the Ashburn field with youth baseball from T-ball, coach pitch level through little league level through cadet level, all playing there all day long. Huge rake of kids there, fantastic day. we're lucky to get the weather for it, but they had just had the kids had an absolute ball, and you could see some great talent there, some great baseball being played, and certainly days like that where we really get all the kids out playing baseball, and all the families just having a great time. That's certainly very rewarding. But then I think also, looking at the kind of group of young players that we have kind of coming through the system now who are showing that kind of elite potential is also hugely rewarding. We have a group of probably 6 or 8 kids in the 15 to 19 range now who are really turning into very strong baseball players, and could compete with any at their age anywhere in the world, I think. It's like you're saying, the strategy is kind of step by step, year by year, but it's obviously a long-term overall view. You have to take a 20-30 year view of the thing. Produce some good baseball players. Yeah, it's easy. Pick a bunch of 6 and 7 year olds and invest 10 years in training them, and suddenly you've got some good baseball players, right? It takes work, it takes work, and it takes work every year, but it's very satisfying to see the results starting to appear. And I think we're moving from a phase where we had initial group of players who were kind of weekend warriors and just wanted to get out there and play a bit, to kids who are taking it really serious, and they're working in the gym every day. They're working on their baseball. They're out. They want to play as many games as possible and take every opportunity to improve. And they're loving it. And that's really really satisfying. I think we're making measurable progress. Still a long road, but you can see the signs.
Well, listen, Sean. Before I wrap up the episode, I want to say thank you for coming on to the show. Not only being our first intercontinental guest on the SPMA Council podcast, not only being our guest for the season premiere, but we've had to work with different time zones. Obviously, it's about 5-hour time difference between the time zone in Ontario, where I am right now, to the country of Ireland. So I do want to thank you for donating your time and your experiences and knowledge about the game of baseball. And just some points I want to recap, like dedication, resilience, determination, and good planning. Again, sounds simple, but all the students watching this, that any student or anyone watching this, if you incorporate all of those aspects into your life, if you're determining what you do, if you're committed towards any goal, whether it be short term in maybe like a test or an exam, or long term if you want to pursue a job, and having the right plans to get there, even if some things maybe uncertain, and there's sure as anything uncertain with the pandemic going on. But these are some really great points to take note of and learn from as you go through this episode. So to end off the episode, it is tradition, as always, at the SPMA Council podcast for our guests to take the reins and sort of wrap up the show as to what's going on now, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic and your reopening, or really just what's on your mind. So as we say quite often, Sean, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much. Yeah, well, it's been pleasure coming on. Thank you very much for inviting me. I have to say we're certainly really delighted to be back out playing baseball. This pandemic has been a tough time for everybody. Baseball may not be top of people's minds when things are so tough, but it's just great to be starting to come back to some kind of normalcy. I mean, things like you were saying there, things aren't always going to go your way, and you can have plans and you know, be determined to go in a certain direction, but there's no question you're going to get setbacks, right? You're going to get knocked down. So yeah, if you believe in what you're doing, you just keep going, and that's the best you can do, and show that resilience. You'll get there eventually. You just have to believe it. So that's what we try to do.
Well, once again, thank you, Sean, for coming on. It was a pleasure having you on in the season premiere. So thanks again, man.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.